pumped about this series actually. Wasn't on the radar until kind of recently, and it's sort of started because I had been for quite some time wanting to share with the church a Passover celebration. Okay, and for those that you don't know, we're going to be in for a bit of a treat for that soon. So, and I said to my Bible study group, I said, hey, would you be interested in preparing for this Passover and kind of leading the church through a Passover? I gave a DVD on a Jewish, a Messianic Jew. In other words, a Jew that believes in the Messiah has come already, which is Jesus, right? So a Jew that's believed that Jesus has come, and they watched the DVD and they went, oh man, this is so complicated. There's a lot to this. I'm not sure we can do this. And they handed me back the DVD last week, and I'm driving home. I've got the DVD in my car. I'm driving home from that moment, and a guy from Jews from Jesus rings me up, and he says, "Hey, would you be interested in having a Jewish missionary come to your church and kind of sharing how Christ is part of all this?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think so." And of course, I said, yeah, actually, I was just thinking about that, and they're like, "So, what would you like us to do?" I'm thinking, well, could you show us how Christ is in the Passover? That would be really cool. And he's like, yeah, well, that's what we usually do. That's one of the things we love to do. And so it's a few weeks away still, but so we've got a Jewish missionary, so she's a Jewish Christian. And she does missionary work to Jewish people. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Okay, and she's going to come and share with us, and we're going to do Passover together. We're going to see the celebration of that, and it's going to be fantastic. It's the meal where Jesus said that this is my body broken for you. It's that moment when he said, "This is my cup." And we've taken that as communion. We do little bits of that, but it's part of this massive celebration. And it's going to be so great. And so I was thinking, well, in preparation for us to think about Passover and everything that it means, maybe we can go back right to the start and say, let's have a look at the origins of our faith. Okay, so let's have a look where it all started. And so part of it is so we're going to do three things during this series, which I'm really excited about. So three things. One is our biblical understanding is just going to go off the charts compared to what it is now. Okay, so we're going to take the Old Testament, and particularly Genesis and a little bit of Exodus and some of the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible written by Moses. We're going to look at those and see what it is that we can. So that's the foundation for everything that happens afterwards. Okay, if we understand this foundation really well, then our understanding of Jesus and what that means and what our faith means and things like that, it's really going to be fantastic. So I think it's really going to encourage you and bless you. So if you haven't read the book of Genesis, all right, I'm not going to go for a show of hands right now, but if you haven't read the book of Genesis, this is a great time to get into that, because we're going to go through the book of Genesis, not word for word, but we're going to go through a lot of it and kind of see what does it mean? What does it mean for them back then? What does it mean for us now? And what does it mean for us, individually? What does it mean for us personally? So we're going to do that. So biblical knowledge is going to go, which is fantastic, and we're going to see how Christ shows up in the Old Testament through all these characters, and how we can see God had a plan and God is doing something amazing right from the start. Okay, so we're going to do that. That's the second thing that I want to happen in this series, to kind of bring that out. And the third thing is our faith will just go nuts. I mean that in a good way. Yeah, that's Aussie for it's going to be awesome. Would that work in America or something, or in England? Our faith was going to go nuts. It probably wouldn't, would it? It's not very. Anyway, all right. So we're going to start with, if you've got your Bibles, yeah, Judy. Oh, so she's crook, is she? Okay. All right. Well, she can watch it online later. Fantastic. All right, so I've just lost Hebrews. Here we are, I found it. Thank you. New Testament. I just lost the whole people group. So the Jews are often called the Hebrews as well. And it's also a book in the New Testament. And in chapter 11, so look, if you look in the New Testament, chapter 11, we're gonna start there, where there's a bunch of guys listed and ladies listed that are faith heroes. And these people we can get inspired by. These people we can grow in our faith as we read their story and learn something from them as well. And so it's Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. And it says this, now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. That's a great definition. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And this is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain. By faith Enoch. By faith Noah. By faith Abraham. By faith Isaac. By faith Jacob. By faith Joseph. By faith Moses. And that's when we're going to learn about the Passover. And it continues on, but we're not going to go any further than that just at the moment. We're not going to go through all that today either. There's a lot there. But today we're looking at Cain and Abel. We won't just go to Cain and Abel just yet. But we might start, if we want to flip back to Genesis, and if you want to, you can put a finger in John. That didn't come out right.
One would hope that it would come out right. In the book of John.
In the book of John, you put a finger in the book of John as well, and the book of Genesis. All right, so it just didn't work, did it? All right. So John chapter 1 and also Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. So we're going to start right at the beginning and have a look at that. The reason why John as well is you can almost read these two books at exactly the same time. Like especially the first 4 verses. That's the first 4 verses of Genesis and the first 4 or 5 verses of John. You could kind of read them side by side. It's the same message. Exactly the same message. And so this is kind of setting the scene for Cain and Abel. But also too, we're going to see how where's God in all this? Where's Christ in this as well? Where's Jesus in all this? And go from there. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Pretty simple enough. Easy peasy. Alright, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, God created everything. Now there's a whole bunch of, I guess you could say, debate about how this happens, or if it did happen at all. But it says here, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And it goes on to talk about the 6 days. And you may have read that before in Genesis 1. It's an interesting, really... I used to be an atheist. That's one of the things that I used to be. And I used to think, this is just rubbish. I just thought that kind of popular idea of science, I took that hook, line and sinker and just thought, well, God can't do it because man has proven that God is not needed anymore. And I since came to a conclusion that's just not true. But we're all on a journey, aren't we? And so the other thing I just want to say really quickly on that is that Christians are debating on how did the earth get created, how did the heavens get created as well. And do you know what? I actually don't care anymore. I used to care a lot. I actually don't care. What I do care about is that we understand that God created the heavens and the earth. Did it happen in 6 days? Did it happen in 6 billion years? I don't care. God created the heavens and the earth. And that's actually the really important part. Now, there's people debating all that kind of stuff all the time. 6 periods of time rather than 6 literal 24-hour periods. Some people they're debating that all the time. And so, obviously, You can do that if you want to. You can look it up online. There's a million different ways you can kind of do that. I'm okay with either, except you just got to know that God created everything. That's the revelation. All right? The rest of the stuff we actually don't know. So science is fantastic. Science is from that Greek word meaning knowledge, and the Bible tells us we know in part now. 1 Corinthians 13, we know in part, but one day we'll know in full. And so knowledge, it's because science changes all the time, doesn't it? Because, for good reason, we thought something was right. Later on, we've done some more study, and we realised it wasn't right, so we changed our position. And that's cool. I'm totally cool with that. But we've got to understand that we know knowledge in part now. Revelation is different. Revelation means somebody saw it, was there, and now it's been passed on. Okay? And so that's the difference here. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And it's interesting. Here's where we can see Christ in it straight away. In the beginning, God created the heavens. That word God is I was going to say the Greek word. It's not Greek. It's the Hebrew word Elohim. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And I would never try, when our Jewish friend comes here, to try and pronounce any Jewish words. I just stay away from Elohim. There's probably some kind of in there as well. So Elohim, something like that. And it's this word that means God, and it's a singular, as in one. We all cool with that? All right. There's a word that we don't translate here in our English Bibles because it kind of doesn't make sense. And it's just before the word God, and it's like this. It's like a word like the, and it's a plural. So it kind of makes sense. If I said in the beginning the God, like we wouldn't say that in English because that doesn't make sense, right? But I've heard other people from other cultures say in English to me, the God has been really good to me, meaning God's been really good to me. I'm like, that's fine, okay? We don't use that in English, but that's fine. But the translation actually should be something like that. In the beginning, then God. Now in the camp we spoke about grammar not being really the thing that God really cares about too much because it doesn't work. Right? When he said, I am. So in the beginning, then God. So he's got a plural and then a singular. What's he hinting at? 3
and 1
in 1. The Trinity. He's hinting at the Trinity right from the start. He's hinting that God, Jesus is there, the Holy Spirit's there, God the Father is there. They're all there in the beginning. God the Father, the Holy God the Father, Holy Jesus. Why not? God the Father, Holy Jesus, and the Holy Spirit is there, right? And so that's kind of cool. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So if you flick over, and then I'll just really quickly go down to verse 3. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. All right? And God, how did he create? The Word. If you've still got your finger in the book of John, go there really quickly. Somebody slammed it open. That's fantastic. I like hearing the sound of rustling Bibles. This is John's account of the beginning, right? In the beginning was the Word. How did God create? Spoke. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. There's that plural stuff. And the Word was God. There's the singular stuff. Can you stop trying to confuse me? That's crazy, isn't it? All right. He was with God in the beginning. That's Genesis verse 1, isn't it? Through him all things were made. Through the Word, that's Genesis chapter 1 verse 3. God spoke through him, through the Word, everything was made. It's fantastic, isn't it? In him was life, and that life was the light of men. Verse 14, we find out who it is. The Word became flesh. The Word became flesh. All right, who's that? No. Jesus. All right, so it's Jesus. So think Christmas story. The Word became flesh. That's the time where God literally becomes a human being. Christmas. That's our Christmas story. So that's our setting, right? God creates everything. Genesis chapter 3. So Adam and Eve have been created as well, and that's amazing. And Genesis chapter 3, we see everything's falling apart. Everything's falling apart. There was one thing that they couldn't do. One thing. One thing. Only one thing. And they did it. They couldn't eat from one particular tree. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They ate from that one, so they disobeyed. There's a whole bunch of stuff we could talk about that, but we're not going to. But everything goes haywire. Sin becomes part of our DNA. Rebellion is part of our DNA, and we're in trouble. God says, all right, out of the garden, get out of here. And they can no longer come to the tree that is life. The tree of life. And so there's a promise there straight away that God is going to do something about this, but for now, it's not happening. So then we get to chapter 4, and this is where Cain and Abel come into things. So it says, Adam lay with his wife, and I've got to probably warn you, if you're a bit squirmish, don't look up here at the moment. All right? So everyone looks. Everyone looks. Alright, so Adam lay with his wife, and here we see the beautiful miracle of life. Alright, Lego birth. This is Lego birth. Mary doesn't look like she's having a good time. Looks like Adam hasn't had a shave in a while either. And but Adam and Eve, it's that word yada, or knows his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks. All right, can you go to that next slide, Kim? Well, there's the family. There's Cain and Abel, and then here's Cain. He's keeping the. Sorry, this is Cain. Abel kept flocks. So that's Abel. Sorry, there's sheep. You see that?
I didn't know Lego was so old.
Lego's been around for a very long time. And it was good that somebody was there to take a picture of Lego, Cain and Abel back then. And so he's Abel, and Cain worked the soil. So there we go. He's got a carrot. Fantastic. And so in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. But Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favour on Abel. I think there's another one for that one. Nice. Except God looks really angry, doesn't he? And he looks like Gandalf.
Gandalf the White.
From the Lord of the Rings. One thing, can I just say, I don't think God looks like an old man. Is that okay? Can I just say that? God doesn't look like an old man with a really big beard and with grumpy eyebrows all the time. Alright? He actually loves us. He is a good father. And, when we do stuff he doesn't like, yeah, sure, he might get the angry eyebrows going on. But most of the time, he's not walking around doing that. Okay? And so he's Cain's offering, and he's like, man, I've seen better. Alright, so he wasn't pleased with that one. And so, because of this, Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not what is right, sin is crouching at the door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. That's the first murder. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? I don't know, he replied, am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what you have done, listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. He curses him, and he said he has to be a wanderer for the rest of the days of his life. He ends up building a few cities and things like that as well. And so That's Cain and Abel's kind of story. What is it that we're going to learn from Cain and Abel?
Don't kill your friends and your brothers.
Good. Point 1, don't kill your friends or brothers. What about your enemies?
That's okay. Yeah.
Alright, so
It's a different story.
different story. It could be a different story, but let's just go with let's not kill anyone. Let's just stick with that for now, shall we? Alright, so what is it that we're going to learn from that? I mean the Hebrews 11 is an exclusive list. Like, I have faith, and I think, sometimes I've got pretty good faith. I'll just kind of put it out there. I've got kind of pretty good faith. And I'm not listed in here. And you know what? I don't see any of your names in here either. In fact, there's not many names there at all. So we have to actually take note. Hebrews 11 lists Abel as a guy who had incredible faith. And we actually need to take note of that. And we look, why is it that his faith was incredible? Because faith is so important. I mean, Jesus said that faith of a mustard seed can what? Who remembers that one? Faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. Yeah. Fantastic. Who said that? Go on. Well done. Alright, so it can move mountains. Faith, small amount of faith, you can say to a mulberry tree, jump into the sea. I've got a mulberry tree, please, nobody with faith, tell my mulberry tree to jump into the sea. Because I love it. He also said, are you of little faith? When Peter started not walking on the water, like he's literally walking on the water, he starts sinking, he's like, where's your faith, dude? Like, Jesus was pretty hardcore about faith. He talks about faith a lot, and so it's really important to us. There's 3 things that will remain according to 1 Corinthians 13. Faith, hope, and love. So faith is really important, and faith really is a key to unlocking the supernatural in our lives in a good way. So if we and our vision for this year was to be a soul-winning church, a disciple-making church, and a church that is a supernatural church. So in other words, that we're trying to see people come to know Jesus for the first time. Once we know people, once we know Jesus, we want to be discipled. We want to be intentional about that, and we know that it's all about God. It's not about us, and so we need to be a praying church because we want to see God move and do incredible things. So that's in the small things, that's in the big things, that's in everything. And so faith is really important. So as we look at this, let's get excited that we're going to increase our faith as we look at the different areas of faith. All right. And so today, what is it about Abel? What was it about his sacrifice that God liked, but Cain's sacrifice he didn't? Think about that for a second. So verse 3. Abel offered God a better sacrifice. That's in Genesis chapter 3. And in Hebrews it talks about the same thing. What is it that was better about his sacrifice, his offering? And why did God like it, but he didn't like Cain's? What's that, Jeff?
He done it for his love for God.
He did do it for his love for God. Yeah. So that's a good point because there's no requirement yet. So later on, there becomes a requirement for sacrifice for sin. So sin has to be dealt with by sacrifice, which is where we find Jesus coming into being sacrificed for us. And so that's our sacrifice now, right? But there's no requirement yet. So even Cain does this with no requirement. Nancy.
Abel understood God, or God's requirement, had a working idea of who God is.
Yeah.
And his own position in front of God. And so he understood his sin and he needed something to take his place.
Yeah. So you're saying that prophetically, Abel has an insight into his need for his sin to be punished in some way, or that sacrifice would be a way that could happen.
Well, he's first generation.
Yes,
So
that's right.
his mum and dad have
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve has told him what's happening, and he can go and have a look at this dirty great angels standing outside
He knows where the tree of life was.
Yeah, and
He
he can't go and see it. He can see
Yeah.
that, okay, God requires something from me,
That's great.
and it's my life.
That's great.
And so, and because of what's happened, how do I please God? Well, the only way I can please God is give something instead of me.
That's great. That's great. I love that. That's fantastic. And so you see that. So prophetically, I actually think both of them prophetically know a little bit, but I think Abel's prophetically understood the power of the Lamb somehow, and that Jesus is our Passover Lamb. So that's fantastic, Lance. I love that. Here's one other thing that I've noticed in here is, and you have to kind of read it kind of slowly, otherwise you just kind of miss it. So it says, in the course of time, this is verse 3, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. So he brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. Now remember, Cain's a farmer, as in agriculture farmer. Well, they're all agriculture farmers. Plants. And Abel's not doing plants. He's doing sheep, okay? And so the thing is here that Cain and Abel both bring something that they can. Alright? So Cain can't bring sheep because he's not a sheep farmer. Abel can't bring carrots because he's not farming for carrots. So they're bringing something of what they can. Check out this. So Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, but Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn.
This is mine. Cain
Yeah.
brought some of the things. Abel here, full faith.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Cain was, well, I'll give you something.
That's exactly right.
And I want something for me.
Yeah.
Where Abel, he gave everything, knowing that his faith got to look after him.
That's right. It's beautiful, Jace. It's beautiful, mate. It's exactly right. So Cain brought what was left over. But Abel brought the first fruits. He didn't know if there was going to be any more. And that's the thing. So it's like you get and I mean, in today's language we probably talk about time or money or something like that, or our resources or our energy. You know, we put that first, like what is most important we'll do first, right? And sometimes we don't know. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that. And so I don't know if I'm going to have time to spend with the Lord today. I've got a really busy day. And so what do? You get up, you get showered really quickly, you throw on those clothes, you get in the car, you go to work, you do what you have to do, you come home, you cook dinner for the kids, and you do whatever else you need to do, clean the house a little bit, ring a friend that you said you were going to ring for ages or something, you know, you've got to do all that kind of stuff, and then eventually it's 9:30 at night, and what do? Go to sleep. Or you spend 5 minutes with the Lord. You give him what's left over. But here's the thing, it's actually, see, God's actually saying, I want what's first. I want you first. I want what you've got first. I want your energy first. I want your money first. I want all those things. I want those first, and then by faith, trust me, I'm going to make sure you get some more. And so Abel brought his sheep, and he brought them along, and he said, hey God, here's what I got. It's the first lot. Lord, it's yours. You gave it to me anyway. It's yours. And then he says, hey, he's probably praying, I really want some, it'd be great to have a couple myself, you know, Lord, as well. But he doesn't know. He actually doesn't know. What happens if there's a massive drought all of a sudden? What happens if the wolf comes along and destroys the rest of his flock? That's possible, isn't it? What happens, for us, like if you get, let's say your average income's, $1,000, and you think, wow, okay, I've got my first $100 today. What am I going to do with that? Well, I'm going to hang on to it, or give it to God and hope the rest of the 900 comes in. I'll budget for the rest, So do we budget for that? And this isn't a money sermon, but it's just like you can see. It's obvious, kind of, isn't it? Like I can't really go anywhere else with this. We're not a church that goes on about money all the time. You guys know that, right? But I can't go anywhere else with this scripture, right? We're looking at these guys. This is what's happening. I can't really do anything else. He wants our energy. He wants our time. He wants our money. He wants our resources. He wants you, and he wants you first. And then the rest of it, he's going to bless you anyway. All right? And so by faith, we give God first what's his. And then we believe that he'll provide for the rest. And so this is what happened here for Cain and Abel. And so I think it's one thing that we need to think about. Now, we might say, well, that's Old Testament. What about, this is before Jesus came along and changed everything. He became the sacrifice and he changed everything. Well, Matthew 6, verse 33 says, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness. Jenny, you've got some good, super Bible knowledge there. Quoting, you're not really fast on Google, eh? Fantastic. Well done, Jenny. Top of the class. Well done. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you. So the point is, this is still a New Testament kind of an idea. We are under grace. Everything has changed. But he still wants you first. He still wants you first. Yeah, Jace.
Just in going Bible study on this kind of thing, I've learned that throughout the whole, where we're up to, throughout the whole Bible, if you give him all your faith, he'll look after you. We've just gone through the last week where you led them to the promised land. They didn't have faith.
Yeah.
They sent out, was it 10?
12 spies.
12?
Yeah, 12 spies, yeah.
10 come back.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's no good. Too big. There's blokes like Jeff there. Yeah. That are the height of Simon.
They didn't have the faith to promise them this land.
Yeah.
They didn't have the faith, so they were wandering for the next 40 years.
Yeah, that's right. And the faith actually, their lack of faith actually was the reason why they didn't get into the promised land. So they believed that they couldn't get into the promised land, and they were right. And the only two who believed that they could get into the promised land, they were right too. How powerful is faith? How powerful is faith? So we've got to get a concept of this, and we're going to go on a journey. What is it that faith? Now, Belle said something amazing to me last night. She said, "Faith looks like something. Faith looks like something." And James says it too. James, biblical James says it, that show me your works without faith.
There's faith without works instead.
Yes.
We can't just believe because even the demons do that in each other.
That's
They
right.
know who's God. But if we have faith and we love him, then we'll be seeing what we do.
Yeah. So if we can't see it, we wonder. We're not saying it's not there, but where is it?
Follow, if we have faith, then our actions
Yeah.
in accordance.
That's right. And so it's the same with love. It's the same kind of thing, Love should look like something. So if I tell Belle that I love her, and then I can't even think of anything terrible that I would do, and I ignore you. There we go. That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? So if I say to Belle I love you and ignore her all day, well, my actions are actually saying something completely different, aren't they? Carl, tell me about it later. All right. All right, we have Jesus. So David is pointing to the sky. He's saying, can you worship Jesus? Is it worship Jesus? To that? All right, so faith, guys, it's going to be fun. Next week we're going to look at Enoch. which is great. Now, Enoch walked with God for 365 years and then disappeared. Didn't die. I'm going to check that out next week. Bless you guys. Hey, I want to pray for anyone who would love prayer today too. So please don't be shy. Just come on up, and it's just really cool.